Hey everyone, my name is Belinda Maston and I'm here to show you Fantasy Fish 3rd grade clay project. So this type of clay comes out white and we're going to be using it for today. All of these clays are 05, they fire it at 05, and all of the glazes, most of them are too, apart from the red, which is an 06. You don't really need to know that, but I told you anyway. So let's go ahead and we're going to make these cute little fishies. And I think you need probably the size of a tennis ball to start off with. You can take it off the clay block. You can either cut it off and then prepare it so it's ready to go in class. So have all of these balls ready so the kids have a good sized tennis ball. This one's just a little too small. I'd probably opt for something a bit bigger. This one feels a bit better. Yeah, so I would try and get them about the size of a baseball, a tennis ball, and do however many you need for the class. Make sure you have a wet rag and make sure that all the air bubbles are out. Just wedge the piece just like this. I might take these little guys off the table, they're getting all wobbly. And if you need to, if you feel like there's air still in there and there's cracks and stuff, you can just do your ram's head wedge technique. If it's a piece that's just been used from a previous class, and then you can throw it down and get it into a nice round ball. It's a lot like the chick project in the sense that you're making kind of like a pinch pot, and then I would just tap 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 and yeah, just get it into that nice round shape. Okay, so this is pretty much very similar to 2nd grade clay chicks. It's exactly the same method, and I really do prefer for the clay chicks and also for the fantasy fish to go ahead and use the glazes. So this is a complete glazed piece. We've used the Jungle Gym products, which are in the lower clay cabinet. You'll find them in there. And this is after a bisque fire. So this actually hasn't been glazed. This is what a bisque fire looks like, nice and white. And then you paint this over the top. You can't use this on greenware. It shouldn't look like this. You have to have it in that state to paint this stuff on. So yeah, I think the body should be the Jungle Gyms, and you can always use another Jungle Gym product for the eyes and the tongue, but you can also use these Stroke and Coat. This is actually the underglaze undercoat, which I prefer you not to use these for the fantasy fish. You will need to, you can use those for other projects because you really want these guys to bling. So this is a Stroke and Coat. It's a different product, it's not an underglaze. And you can do like solid colours with these and they turn out really cute too. And that has to be at a bisque fire. It has to look like this for you to use this product on it. Okay, and then just make sure before you do anything, before they start glazing, that they put the wax resist on underneath, which is this product here. You just wet it with a sponge and just dab it on, and then glazing is ready to go. So once you have your ball in a nice round shape, you just smooth out any of the cracks that you might see, and then just like a pinch pot, get the kids to stick their fingers in the middle of it, just like that. And then they can start rotating it around, holding it in their hand. And squeeze, rotate, squeeze and turn, squeeze and turn, just like that. Now, you want to make sure that the walls are not too thick. If they're too thick, it's going to take a long time for it to get fired because we need to wait till it dries out. And you may get irritated with the clay people, but they're doing the best they can, and if it's not dry, they can't put it in the kiln because it will explode, especially if it's a dense piece of clay. So make sure that these sides are really quite, you know, thin. Not too thin, like probably 2 mil thick if that. So keep getting the kids to rotate around. They'll get cracks and stuff like that. That's okay. They can smooth them out when they're finished doing this. And then depending on the size of the mouth, you can always change the shape of it by having them hold it like this. And just keep smoothing all the cracks out. Now, know that these are going to shrink by 30 to 40%, which is quite a lot. So you don't want them to be too small. Like I said, a baseball size, start with a baseball size. But if you're working with a big piece of clay like that, you do have to make sure that it's not thick. So this back part, make sure that you get the parents to feel the back part, that it's not too thick, and the kids keep rotating it till it's all even all the way through. It might take a little while because they only got little fingers. But 3rd grade, they're getting a bit bigger, so fingers crossed this process won't take too long. Okay, so that's looking pretty cute. Now I'm going to create a bit of a mouth by tapping it like this. Now kids can do it any way they want. It's just a little opening where their mouth is. And that sits right down on the ground like that. Now, once you've got it where it's in some kind of position, then you can pick it up and get the kids to scratch their name at the bottom of the piece. So again, make sure the name is nice and clear and that you can read it. You may need to go over it again. And then put the name of the teacher and also the grade. So if it's Hanson, 3rd grade, or Hensler, just write it in. And if the children are not happy doing that and not comfortable, then go ahead and do it yourselves at the end of the lesson. Just make sure that's done, because if it's not, there's probably four other classes doing fish, and it'll get mixed up in the kiln room when we're firing it. Okay, so once that's done, put that guy down there and make sure that the kids have an extra piece of clay, probably the size of a cutie, and that will limit their ability to create too thicker pieces. If you give them too much clay, they're going to make big appendages that will take forever to dry. So make sure it's no bigger than the size of a cutie. Make sure any extra clay is covered all the time so it doesn't dry out. So then you can go ahead and do eyes. If you're going to do googly eyes, make sure they're not any bigger than the size of a grape, because they will explode in the kiln, and that's not fun. So put your eyes on. Now we have these handy dandy spray bottles. They have vinegar in them, and we don't have slip because you do have to agitate slip and rotate it through. You have to stir it every time. It's not always convenient. These are really handy. They break down the molecules of the clay. So you go ahead and spray, and then you can spray where you're attaching it, but most of the time that's enough moisture to get it to stick. So you would wiggle, wiggle, twist and stick. Wet, wiggle, twist and stick. I love this lady on YouTube. I have forgotten her name. She's amazing. She does clay, and she uses that technique, and it's fantastic. So just wet, wiggle, twist and stick, and it should stick on. It shouldn't fall off. Make sure that they have those really stuck on. Okay, so you can go ahead and give it a little eyeball by poking. I like to put these in, but the kids can do whatever they want. So this is open for interpretation. And it's also hollowing out that as well, which is kind of good to have it hollowed out a bit. And then go ahead and put the other eye on. Wet wiggle, twist and stick. And stick another eye in. Now some kids have like little fishies that go in the mouth, that they like to put things in the mouth and stuff like that. That's fine, as long as they wet wiggle, twist and stick, and it's not too big. And then so we can go ahead and put a fin at the back here, or fins on the side. And really honestly, the kids can make whatever they want as long as the piece isn't too thick. So let's go ahead and put a little tail on. Sometimes just patting it like this is always good, and then they can cut out a shape if they want. That stops the thickness from happening. And then they can just, it doesn't have to be fancy. It can be whatever the kids want to do. I really like it when they're creative and they make their own designs. Just tell them it's, you know, a little fin at the back. Some people like it flat like this. Some kids like to have them up like that. It really doesn't matter as long as it's attached. That's the big one. Attach is good. So oopsie, that wasn't wiggled and twist well enough. So go and wet that down again and put it back on. It's good if it falls off while you're on the table still, because nothing's worse when it all falls off when you're in the kiln room after it's been fired. So yeah, just make sure they're really attached. Okay, and then you can just create a design on here. And then sometimes when they're big like this, a big attachment, you want to make sure that this sticks on really good. So another way of making sure that it attaches correctly is by slipping it, by scoring it a bit. You can use your scratch tool to score it by doing a little hashtag, and it scratches it up a bit. And then you can spray both sides. I would do both sides when it's a thick piece like this, and just wet wiggle, twist and stick again. That might be a bit too wet. If it's too wet, you can just dry it with your rag. And hey presto, whoopsie, still too wet. If it falls off, you know it's too wet. You can always dry it with your dry cloth a bit and then wet it down. There we go. Ta-da! And then if you want to, you can just attach it a bit more. That's quite a heavy tail, but if you put it on properly and you move it around and it's still attached, then it looks like it's the real deal. It's going to work. And they can pick it up and whatever. But just don't get too fussy. Kids like to be creative. Let them be creative. Let them do what they want to do, what they want to make. Most kids have a vision on this already. They'll see an example and they'll already be brainstorming their ideas. So you can start making fins that attach to the side like this. And again, just really important to make sure that the pieces don't fall off. And they're not too thick. That tail is just borderline thick, too thick. But I actually think it's quite good. It's not, it's just on the brink. Okay, and then these can be like the little fins. And kids can do whatever design they want. They can use their fingernails, they can use a scratch tool, they can use a paddle pop stick. And then you can go ahead and wet that down, wet the side, wet wiggle, twist and stick. Sometimes if it's too wet, it won't stick either. So just just be conscious of that. And then this little guy can have his little fin stick out like that. And then the other side. I highly recommend doing a quick demonstration for the kids, because then they can see firsthand how you make it. Practice at home with your own children, because that really gives you an idea of what they're capable of, because what you can do might not be easy for them to do. So try it at home. There we go. Ta-da! He's got some little fins. And then if you want to do one up the top here, you can do that one up here. Some people like those really cute what do they call those big fish they have? They have the fighting fish in the pet store, and they have that big flowing tail that goes all the way.
The beta?
The beta fish, yeah. They are super cute, and some kids like to make all kinds of interesting fins for the fish. And it really, the sky's the limit. The most important thing is that it's not going to fall off. Because it's so sad when little Johnny's fin falls off, and we have like 4 other classes that have all done fish, and poor little Johnny is looking for his fish tail, and we cannot find it. We cannot find it because we have other children's fish tails that have fallen off because they didn't attach them correctly. So you can do things like this. It really doesn't matter. It's just so much fun. Clay is so great. I love it. And yeah, so I would probably allow for 10 days for these to dry, because sometimes
You guys don't need